A day in daily essentials. In the heart of a vibrant city, where the streets hummed with life and diversity, stood a small convenience store called Daily Essentials. This unassuming shop was more than just a place to grab groceries. It was a cornerstone of the community, nestled between a bustling bakery and a quaint thrift store. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, mingling with the laughter of children playing nearby. It was here that Marcus Thompson, a 25-year-old black cashier, began his day. Marcus had worked at Daily Essentials for 3 years. His warm smile and friendly demeanor made him a beloved figure among regular customers. He knew most of them by name and often engaged in light-hearted banter as they checked out. For Marcus, this job was not just about ringing up items. It was about building connections and fostering a sense of belonging in an ever-changing world. The store's atmosphere. The interior of Daily Essentials was a colorful tapestry reflecting the neighborhood's rich diversity. Shelves were lined with products from various cultures, spices from South Asia, snacks from Latin America, and traditional American staples. Posters adorned the walls, showcasing local events and community initiatives. The store buzzed with life. Elderly residents came in for their morning coffee, parents picked up after-school snacks for their kids, and students grabbed quick meals before heading to their evening classes. Despite its charm, Daily Essentials faced challenges. The neighborhood had seen economic ups and downs, and crime rates fluctuated. Yet Marcus remained optimistic. He believed that small businesses like his could uplift the community by providing jobs and fostering connections among residents. Marcus's background. Growing up in this very neighborhood shaped Marcus into the person he was today. Raised by a single mother who worked tirelessly to provide for him after his father left when he was just a child, he learned the value of hard work and resilience early on. His mother often reminded him, "People will remember how you treat them," instilling in him values that guided his interactions with others. Though he had dreams of pursuing graphic design, financial constraints forced him to put those aspirations on hold. Working at Daily Essentials allowed him to contribute to his household while saving up for college classes. He often sketched designs during his breaks, dreaming of one day creating art that would inspire others. Meeting the regulars. As Marcus settled into another day at work, he greeted familiar faces with genuine warmth. There was Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly woman who came in every morning for her favorite brand of tea. Mr. Patel, who owned the bakery next door and often brought over fresh pastries. And young Timmy, who always asked for candy after school. "Good morning, Marcus," Mrs. Jenkins called out as she entered the store with her cane tapping rhythmically against the floor. "I need my tea fixed today." "Coming right up," Marcus replied with a smile as he walked over to the tea aisle. He cherished these interactions. They reminded him that he was part of something bigger than himself. A busy afternoon. As afternoon rolled around, the store became busier. Customers rushed in after work to grab essentials before heading home. The bell above the door jingled frequently as people entered and exited, adding to the lively atmosphere. Marcus moved swiftly behind the counter, ringing up items while keeping an eye on those browsing through aisles. Just then, a tall man entered, the bell above the door jingling as he stepped inside. He wore a baseball cap pulled low over his brow and sunglasses, despite it being cloudy outside. A strange choice, but not uncommon in urban settings. Marcus greeted him politely. "Good afternoon. How can I help you today?" The man grunted in response, his demeanor cold as he scanned shelves disinterestedly before making his way toward the register. The first signs of trouble. As Marcus began ringing up items for another customer, a middle-aged woman, he noticed out of the corner of his eye that the man had stopped near an aisle filled with snacks. Suddenly, he heard raised voices coming from that direction. "What do you mean you don't have it?" The man's voice boomed angrily, his frustration palpable as he confronted another customer who stood nearby, looking startled. Marcus felt tension rising within the store. He exchanged worried glances with Mrs. Jenkins, who watched anxiously from her spot near the checkout counter. "Sir," Marcus called out, trying to maintain a calm tone despite growing unease surrounding situation unfolding before him. "Is everything all right?" The man turned sharply toward Marcus, his expression darkening as he glared at him through narrowed eyes. "What's it to you?" he snapped back harshly. A growing storm. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Customers began shifting uncomfortably, glancing around, unsure how to respond, while tension hung thick like fog enveloping entire room. "Listen," Marcus replied firmly but respectfully, trying to de-escalate situation unfolding before them. "We're all just trying to shop here peacefully." But instead of calming down, the man's anger seemed to escalate further. "You think you can tell me what to do? You don't belong here," he shouted, his words dripping with venom. Gasps echoed throughout store as people looked on shocked by sudden outburst. As Marcus stood there facing this unexpected hostility, he felt a mixture of disbelief and determination rising within him. This was not just about him. It was about standing up for what was right in front of his community. The confrontation escalates. As the man's words echoed through the store, a hush fell over the customers. Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach, but he refused to back down. He had faced adversity before, and he knew that this moment would define not only him, but also how the community responded to such behavior. The rising tension. "Sir, I'm just trying to help," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the anger directed at him. "There's no need for this. We're all here to shop and support each other." The man stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space. "You think you can lecture me? You don't know anything about my life." His face was flushed with rage, and Marcus could see the tension in his clenched fists. Around them, customers shifted nervously. Mrs. Jenkins clutched her shopping bag tightly, while Mr. Patel exchanged worried glances with other patrons. The atmosphere was thick with unease. It felt as if time had slowed down, every heartbeat echoing in the silence that followed. A community divided. "Why don't you just leave?" the man spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "This is my neighborhood too. You don't belong here." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words. They were not just an attack on him. They were an attack on everything he stood for, the values of community, respect, and unity that he had always believed in. "Everyone belongs here," Marcus replied firmly. "This store is for everyone in our community, regardless of who they are or where they come from." The man's expression darkened further, and for a moment it seemed as though he might lash out physically. But before he could respond, a small voice broke through the tension. The daughter's arrival. "Dad! What are you doing?" A young girl burst through the entrance, her eyes wide with concern as she hurried toward her father. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old, with curly hair bouncing as she ran. The man turned abruptly at her voice, his expression softening slightly but still filled with frustration. "I'm just dealing with this guy," he said dismissively, waving a hand toward Marcus. The girl stepped forward bravely, standing between her father and Marcus. "No. You need to stop this," she insisted firmly, her voice strong despite her small stature. "You're being mean for no reason." A moment of reflection. The store fell silent again as everyone processed what was happening. The girl's intervention caught her father off guard. He seemed momentarily stunned by her courage. Marcus watched as she stood tall against her father's anger, embodying a sense of justice that belied her age. "Dad," she continued, her voice trembling slightly but filled with conviction, "this isn't how we treat people. You always say we should be kind." For a moment the man hesitated, his anger wavering as he looked at his daughter. The tension in the air shifted. It was as if everyone in the store held their breath collectively. The father's conflict. I'm just frustrated," he muttered finally, lowering his gaze to avoid meeting anyone's eyes. "You don't understand." But the girl wasn't backing down. "I do understand. You're scaring him." She pointed at Marcus, who stood quietly behind the counter, feeling a mix of gratitude and admiration for this brave young girl. Marcus seized this moment to speak again. "Sir," he said gently but firmly, "we all have tough days. It's okay to feel frustrated, but taking it out on others isn't right." The man looked between his daughter and Marcus, confusion flickering across his face. It was clear that he was grappling with conflicting emotions, his anger clashing with a growing sense of shame. A shift in perspective. "I didn't mean to," he began, but trailed off as if searching for words that wouldn't come. "You need to apologize," his daughter urged softly but insistently. "It's not too late." Marcus felt a wave of hope wash over him as he watched this exchange unfold. Perhaps this confrontation could lead to something positive, a chance for understanding rather than division. The man sighed heavily, visibly struggling with his pride and emotions. Finally, he looked up at Marcus and said quietly, "I'm sorry." The apology. The sincerity in his voice surprised everyone present. It was a moment of vulnerability that broke through the tension like sunlight piercing through dark clouds. "I shouldn't have yelled," he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "I let my anger get the best of me." Marcus nodded slowly, appreciating the effort it took for this man to admit fault in front of others. "Thank you," he replied softly. "We all make mistakes." As murmurs of approval rippled through the small crowd gathered around them, Marcus felt a sense of unity forming among them, a shared understanding that transcended individual differences. Moving forward, together. The atmosphere began to lighten as other customers offered nods of encouragement and support to both Marcus and the man. Mrs. Jenkins smiled warmly at the girl while Mr. Patel approached with a tray of freshly baked pastries. "Why don't we all take a deep breath?" Mr. Patel suggested cheerfully. "How about some pastries on me? Let's turn this day around." Laughter broke out among customers as they began to relax once more. Even the girl managed a shy smile at her father's side. As they gathered around the counter for pastries and conversation began flowing again, like water after a drought, Marcus felt grateful for this unexpected turn of events. Reflection on community strength. Later that evening, after closing up shop, Marcus reflected on what had transpired during that chaotic afternoon, the power dynamics shifting dramatically within minutes. He realized how important it was not only to stand up against negativity, but also embrace opportunities for dialogue when tensions arose. Daily Essentials wasn't just about selling products, it was about fostering connections within their community, creating spaces where people could come together despite their differences. As he locked up for the night, he felt hopeful about tomorrow, knowing that sometimes all it takes is one courageous voice to spark change. The aftermath and new beginnings. As the last customers trickled out of Daily Essentials, Marcus took a moment to breathe deeply. The events of the day had left him emotionally drained, yet invigorated. He felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that he had played a role in turning a negative situation into an opportunity for growth and understanding. A moment of reflection. Sitting behind the counter, Marcus reflected on the confrontation. The man's initial hostility had been jarring, but witnessing his daughter's bravery had been inspiring. It reminded him that even in moments of anger and division, there was potential for compassion and change. He thought about how often people let their frustrations cloud their judgment. It was easy to forget that everyone carried their own burdens. Everyone had a story. Perhaps today had opened a door for that man to reconsider his views and how he interacted with others. The next day at Daily Essentials. The following morning, as Marcus prepared to open the store, he felt a sense of anticipation in the air. He wondered if the events from yesterday would linger in the minds of his customers. Would they come in with a renewed sense of community? Would that man return? When Mrs. Jenkins entered first, Her usual cheerful demeanor was accompanied by an air of excitement. "Good morning, Marcus. I heard about what happened yesterday," she said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You handled it so well." "Thanks, Mrs. Jenkins," Marcus replied with a smile. It was definitely an unexpected turn of events. "I think you showed everyone what it means to stand up for kindness," she continued, nodding approvingly. "That little girl was so brave, too." Just then, Mr. Patel walked in with a tray of fresh pastries. "I brought some treats to celebrate," he announced, placing them on the counter. "We should all take a moment to appreciate our community." A gathering of support. As more customers arrived throughout the morning, they gathered around the counter to share stories and laughter over pastries and coffee. The atmosphere was warm and inviting. It felt like a celebration of resilience and unity. "Did you see how that girl stood up to her dad?" one customer remarked, shaking his head in disbelief. "I wish more people had that kind of courage." "Absolutely. It's inspiring," another chimed in. "We need more voices like hers in our community." Marcus listened intently as conversations flowed around him. It warmed his heart to see people coming together, discussing not just what had happened, but also how they could support one another moving forward. An unexpected visitor. Just as Marcus was beginning to feel optimistic about the day ahead, he looked up to see the man from yesterday entering Daily Essentials again, this time without his sunglasses or hat. He appeared hesitant, but determined. Marcus's heart raced as he recognized him. He felt a mixture of apprehension and hope. Would this man try to confront him again? Or was he here to apologize? Hey, the man said awkwardly as he approached the counter. "Good morning," Marcus replied cautiously, maintaining a neutral tone. He could sense that this encounter would be significant. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for how I acted yesterday," the man continued, his voice low but sincere. "I've been thinking about it all night." A sincere apology. Marcus nodded slowly, appreciating the man's willingness to address what had happened directly. "Thank you for coming in," he said genuinely. "It takes courage to admit when we're wrong." The man shifted uncomfortably but pressed on. "I've been struggling with some things lately, losing my job, financial stress, and I let my frustrations spill over onto you and everyone else." He glanced around at the other customers who were watching with interest. "I don't want my daughter growing up thinking it's okay to treat people like that," he added earnestly. "She deserves better than that." Marcus felt a wave of empathy wash over him. He could see how vulnerable this man was being in front of everyone. "You're right," Marcus replied thoughtfully. "We all have our struggles, but it's important how we choose to respond to them." Building bridges. The man nodded appreciatively and took a deep breath before continuing. "I'd like to make it up to you, and everyone else here, if I can." He looked around at the gathering crowd who were now listening intently. "What do you have in mind?" Marcus asked curiously. "I want to organize some community events, maybe cleanup days or food drives," he suggested hesitantly but with growing confidence. "I want my daughter to see what it means to give back." A ripple of approval spread through the crowd as people began nodding enthusiastically at his idea. "That sounds wonderful," Mrs. Jenkins exclaimed from her spot near the pastries. "We could all pitch in." "And I can help spread the word," Mr. Patel added eagerly. A new beginning. As discussions erupted around him about potential events and initiatives, Marcus felt a surge of hope for what lay ahead, not just for himself, but for everyone involved. The man's transformation from an angry customer into someone eager to contribute positively was nothing short of remarkable, a testament to the power of community support and understanding. As they brainstormed ideas together, Marcus realized that this moment marked a new beginning not only for himself, but also for their entire neighborhood, a chance for healing through action. Closing thoughts. Later that evening, after closing up shop, Marcus reflected on how far they had come since that fateful day when tensions flared within those walls. What had started as an ugly confrontation had blossomed into something beautiful, a renewed commitment among neighbors to foster kindness. He smiled as he locked up daily essentials for the night, knowing tomorrow would bring new opportunities for connection, and perhaps even more surprises. In this small convenience store nestled between a bakery and thrift shop, Marcus Thompson found purpose, not just in ringing up groceries but in building bridges within his community. And as long as he could greet customers with kindness and understanding, he knew he was making a difference, one interaction at a time. Community engagement and growth. The next few weeks at Daily Essentials were filled with excitement and anticipation. The man who had confronted Marcus, now known as David, had taken the initiative to organize community events, and the response from the neighborhood was overwhelmingly positive. Planning the first event. One sunny Saturday morning, Marcus arrived at the store to find a group of enthusiastic volunteers gathered outside. David stood at the forefront, animatedly discussing plans for their first community cleanup day. "Thank you all for coming," David said, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. "Today is about coming together to make our neighborhood a better place. Let's show everyone what we can accomplish when we work as a team." Marcus felt a sense of pride swell within him as he observed familiar faces. Mrs. Jenkins, Mr. Patel, and even young Timmy, who had brought his friends along. It was heartwarming to see people who had once been strangers come together for a common cause. A day of action. As they split into groups to tackle different areas of the neighborhood, Marcus felt invigorated. He joined a team that focused on cleaning up a nearby park that had fallen into disrepair. Armed with garbage bags and gloves, they set to work, picking up litter and clearing away debris. "Look at this," Timmy exclaimed, holding up an old toy he had found buried under some leaves. "I wonder how long it's been here." "Probably longer than you've been alive," Marcus joked, laughing along with the other volunteers. As they worked side by side, conversations flowed freely. People shared stories about their lives and aspirations, creating connection that transcended their differences. Building bonds. During lunch break, everyone gathered at a picnic table set up in the park. David took a moment to address the group again. "I just want to say how grateful I am for all of you," he said sincerely. "This wouldn't be possible without your support." Marcus watched as David's daughter approached him shyly. "Hey, Marcus," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to thank you for being nice to my dad that day." Marcus smiled warmly at her. "You were really brave, too," he replied. "It takes a lot of courage to stand up for what's right." She beamed at the compliment, her confidence visibly growing. "I want to help more. Can I come help at the store sometimes?" "Of course," Marcus replied enthusiastically. "We'd love to have you." A sense of purpose. As the cleanup day came to an end, Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment wash over him. The park looked revitalized. Families began arriving with children eager to play in the fresh air. "Look at what we accomplished," Mrs. Jenkins exclaimed as she surveyed their work with pride. David nodded in agreement. "This is just the beginning," he said confidently. "We can do so much more together." The success of their first event sparked discussions about future initiatives, food drives, community art projects, and even workshops on various topics that could benefit residents. The power of art. Inspired by these discussions and his own dreams of becoming a graphic designer, Marcus proposed an idea during one of their meetings. "What if we organized an art festival? We could invite local artists to showcase their work and host workshops for kids." The room buzzed with excitement as people began brainstorming ideas for themes, activities, and potential artists they could invite. Marcus felt invigorated by the energy in the room. This was what community was all about: collaboration and creativity. Preparing for the festival. In the weeks leading up to the festival, preparations were in full swing. Marcus worked tirelessly alongside volunteers to organize logistics, securing permits, reaching out to local artists, and creating promotional materials. David's daughter became a regular helper at Daily Essentials after school. She would often sit with Marcus as he designed flyers and posters for the event. "I want to learn how to make art like you do," she said one afternoon as they worked together. Marcus smiled at her enthusiasm. "Art is all about expressing yourself," he explained. "You can use any medium you like, paint, markers, even digital tools. Just let your imagination guide you." The day of celebration. Finally, the day of the festival arrived, a beautiful sunny Saturday filled with laughter and excitement. The streets surrounding Daily Essentials were transformed into a vibrant celebration of creativity. Booths lined the sidewalk showcasing local artists' work. Paintings adorned with bright colors hung alongside handmade crafts and jewelry. Children ran around with painted faces, while parents chatted excitedly about upcoming projects. Marcus felt a surge of pride as he walked through the festival. It was incredible to see how far they had come since that fateful day when tensions erupted in his store. A moment of reflection. As he stood behind his booth displaying some of his artwork, a collection inspired by their community, he noticed David approaching with his daughter beside him. "This is amazing," David exclaimed as he took in the atmosphere surrounding them. "You really brought everyone together." "I couldn't have done it without your help," Marcus replied sincerely. His daughter tugged on his sleeve excitedly. "Can I paint something too?" she asked eagerly. "Absolutely. There's plenty of space over there." Marcus pointed toward an area designated for kids' activities. As she dashed off to join other children painting murals on large canvases set up for everyone's enjoyment, Marcus felt grateful for this moment, a culmination of hard work and dedication from everyone involved. Celebrating together. As evening approached, the festival continued to thrive. Live music filled the air while people danced joyfully under strings of colorful lights strung between trees lining their street. Marcus took a moment to step back from his booth, to soak it all in, the laughter echoing around him, the vibrant colors reflecting not just on canvas, but within every heart present. He realized that this festival wasn't just about art. It was about healing wounds within their community, transforming anger into understanding, and creating lasting bonds among neighbors who had once been strangers. Looking ahead, as night fell, the festival began winding down, but not before everyone gathered for one final toast led by David, a celebration not only of creativity, but also resilience. "To our community." David raised his glass high above his head. Everyone joined in unison, raising cups filled with lemonade or sparkling water. "To our community," they echoed back, voices ringing out loud and clear, a promise made among them all, to continue fostering kindness, to lift each other up through every challenge faced ahead. As Marcus looked around at smiling faces illuminated by soft lights glimmering overhead, he knew this was just beginning. The journey toward unity would continue. But today marked an important milestone, a testament that together they could overcome anything. A new chapter for Daily Essentials. As the festival came to a close, Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment wash over him. The laughter of children, the vibrant colors of the artwork, and the warmth of community spirit created an atmosphere that was both uplifting and transformative. This event had not only showcased the talents of local artists, but had also solidified the bonds between neighbors who had once been strangers. Reflections on change. In the days following the festival, Marcus found himself reflecting on how much had changed since that fateful day when he faced hostility in his store. The confrontation with David had sparked a chain reaction, one that led to healing, understanding, and a renewed sense of purpose within their community. He recalled how David had stood before him, vulnerable and remorseful, and how that moment had opened the door to dialogue and connection. It was a reminder that even in moments of anger, there was potential for compassion and growth. Strengthening community ties Daily Essentials became a hub of activity in the weeks that followed. Inspired by the success of the art festival, Marcus and David continued to organize events that brought people together. Community cleanups, food drives, and workshops on various topics. Each event fostered deeper connections among residents and reinforced the idea that they were all in this together. The store itself transformed as well. With increased foot traffic from community events, Marcus decided to expand their offerings. He began stocking more products from local artisans, handmade crafts, organic produce from nearby farms, and culturally diverse foods that reflected the neighborhood's rich tapestry. A new vision one afternoon as Marcus arranged a display of local goods in the store. He noticed David's daughter sketching at a corner table. She was immersed in her artwork, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Hey there," Marcus called out with a smile. "What are you working on?" She looked up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'm drawing ideas for our next festival. I want to make it even bigger." Marcus chuckled at her enthusiasm. "That sounds amazing. We could have more activities for kids, maybe even an art competition." Her face lit up at the suggestion. "Yes, and we can invite more artists too." Building dreams together. Inspired by her passion, Marcus decided to mentor her in art. They began working together after school. He taught her different techniques while encouraging her creativity. Their sessions became a cherished routine, a blend of laughter, learning, and artistic exploration. As they sketched together one afternoon, she looked up at him and said, "You know, I really like helping people feel happy with art." "That's exactly what art is meant to do," Marcus replied warmly. "It brings people together and helps us express our feelings." She nodded thoughtfully. "I want to be an artist when I grow up, just like you." Marcus felt a swell of pride as he realized that he was not only nurturing her talent but also helping shape her worldview, a world where kindness and creativity thrived hand in hand. A community-transformed months passed, and Daily Essentials continued to flourish as a community hub. The store became known not just for its products but also for its role in fostering connections among residents. People began stopping by not only to shop, but also to participate in discussions about community issues or simply to enjoy each other's company. Marcus often found himself reflecting on how far they had come since that initial confrontation with David. The store had become a symbol of resilience, a place where differences were celebrated rather than scorned. A special announcement. One evening after closing up shop, Marcus gathered everyone who had been involved in their recent initiatives for a special announcement. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his heart full as he looked around at familiar faces, friends who had become family through shared experiences. "I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge how much we've accomplished together." He paused for effect before continuing. "I'm excited to announce that we will be hosting our first annual Unity Festival next month. This will be an opportunity for us to celebrate our diversity through art, music, food, and culture." Cheers erupted from the crowd as everyone exchanged excited glances. This was more than just another event. It was a celebration of their journey together. Preparing for Unity Festival. Preparations for the Unity Festival kicked into high gear as volunteers came together to plan activities, music performances featuring local bands, food stalls showcasing dishes from various cultures, and workshops where residents could learn new skills. David's daughter took charge of organizing children's activities. She was brimming with ideas, from face painting to mural painting sessions where kids could express themselves creatively. As they worked side by side preparing for the festival, Marcus felt grateful not only for his role within this community, but also for the friendships he had forged along the way. The day arrives. Finally, the day of the Unity Festival arrived, a beautiful day filled with sunshine and laughter. The streets surrounding Daily Essentials were transformed into a vibrant celebration filled with colorful decorations and lively music. Families gathered early. Children ran around excitedly while parents set up booths filled with delicious food from different cultures, aromas wafting through the air, creating an inviting atmosphere. Marcus moved through the crowd, greeting familiar faces. Mrs. Jenkins proudly displayed her homemade baked goods while Mr. Patel showcased his bakery's specialties alongside other local vendors eager to share their creations. A celebration of diversity. As afternoon turned into evening, the festival reached its peak with performances from local artists showcasing their talents on stage. Music filled every corner, the rhythm resonating within hearts, creating an atmosphere where everyone felt connected. Marcus stood back watching as people danced joyfully under strings of lights illuminating their faces, a beautiful tapestry woven from diverse backgrounds united by shared experiences. He felt immense pride knowing this celebration represented not just their achievements, but also their commitment to fostering kindness within their community, a promise made among neighbors who had once been strangers. Looking toward the future. As night fell, the festival continued into its final moments, with fireworks lighting up the sky above Daily Essentials, a stunning display symbolizing hope and unity. In that moment, Marcus realized this journey wasn't just about overcoming challenges, it was about embracing opportunities for growth and nurturing relationships built on trust, respect. As he stood surrounded by friends, family members celebrating life together, he knew this was just beginning. The journey toward unity would continue. But today marked an important milestone, a testament that together they could overcome anything. With hearts full of gratitude, they raised their glasses high, toasting not only to their successes, but also promising each other they would continue fostering kindness within their community for years to come.